Welcome to Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio Association. You can find us at LCARA.net, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Instagram. If you're enjoying the videos we're producing here at LCARA, please help our club out by hitting that subscribe button. Also, give us some feedback on our videos. Click the like button, share with anybody who may find it interesting, and be sure and hit the bell icon to make sure you get notified of the next video release.
Well, hello everybody. This is KY4BDP for the Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio Association. This is our Echolink video. We finally have it out for you fine folks to consume, and we've had a number of requests to say, well, how do you set this system up? And one of the first things that Chris and I started batting around was we were going to need a new setup. The old setup utilizes a Raspberry Pi and worked reasonably well, and I want to thank the previous members for putting that together. But in this case, we wanted to go in a slightly different direction, and we'll need a new transceiver. So we started looking about for a Kenwood TMV71 Alpha. What's great about this radio is it has custom jacks on the back for hooking into a laptop for Echolink specifically. And you need a specific patch cable kit, which I'll show you in the next little segment here. But this radio lends itself to this project perfectly because it was purpose built. So here are the actual patch cables. The patch cable on the far right helps you with your microphone and audio input jacks, and they're pink and green, and they'll fit on the pink and green audio jacks on the side of your older laptops. A lot of laptops today only have the USB connection or just a single headphone connection, so you might actually have to convert that with an adapter also to a USB based adapter. The white cable in the middle is an actual serial port to USB adapter, because most adapters laptops don't have a serial port anymore. And then the far cable on the left is for sending signals to the transceiver to transmit or receive. So when we put it all together, we have the radio there, we have the patch cables sneaking in between the pink and the green and the white adapter cable for the sending and receive on the radio, and of course a laptop. And this is a donor laptop that I had for this project. The radio we got from AC4DM, our club president, and so when you put all of these elements together, you're pretty close to getting started with what you need for the installation of Echolink. Now, we're not quite there on this project. We need to check some other things, which we'll get into in the next segments, but these are the basic components you're going to need, as well as, of course, an antenna and so forth. So let's go to the next. Here we're looking at the microphone app, if you will, within Windows, and you want to make sure you have an active microphone for this so that when somebody is communicating out, that microphone output will go across the transceiver and out to the repeater. And so we actually have this tested and making sure that it works. In some cases on my systems, I've had more than one microphone because I teach and train, and I don't use the built-in microphone on the laptop, so I need to use an external microphone. And in this case, we're looking at the output or input audio side of things, where the audio is coming from the transceiver to the laptop and then out to the internet for our Echolink listeners wanting to participate on the nets when they're not local to the repeater. So we're just checking these, that the speakers are the internal speakers, not the external speakers on the like if you had external speakers connected to the laptop, and in this case we'll be using these internal ones built into the laptop. Next is a really important step, and this is the part that can be daunting for people that are not really IT people. This is logging into a router, possibly on your network or your club's network, and creating some port forwarding rules that will allow Echolink to work appropriately. Now, the documentation for Echolink will specify port 5200 utilizing TCP as the protocol, and you'll need to put in a port forwarding rule the laptop that you're using for this project, which in this case you can see on the far right there. Also, you'll need a port forwarding rule for 5198 and 5199, which are specific to Echolink as well. Those will need to be created, and again the same IP will need to be used on the far right, and the protocol here is going to be UDP for the Echolink purposes. So that's the firewall. So now that we have the port forwarding rules in the firewall or on the router, we want to test those rules to make sure that Echolink can get out. And it has a really nifty utility built in to test those two rules. And everything should come back successful. So in this particular screen, we have done just that. We're very confident that the program can get out and communicate back in as well to the laptop. So now we can move on to the next step. Now, we're going to get started with the Echolink installation, as I know some of you are chomping at the bit. And so you download the Echolink program from their website, echolink.org, and you'll see the downloads for the Windows installation on their website. And we're just going to go through this installation fairly quickly just so that you can see some of the screens. Of course, accept the end user license agreement and your installation path. And I'm not changing anything here, but you could. And then as we move forward, we're going to click next, and you're going to be given the option to go ahead and install. And in that basic part of the installation, that's all there is to it. And then you're going to click finish. You also can have it launch after that installation, so you can go into setting it up immediately. And that's what we see here. And you'll begin the next wizard here, beginning some of your setup. Now this Echolink is going to be used in what's called SIS Op mode, not for an individual user. And so we're going to use the bottom radio button to do just that. And we want to make sure that it is a repeater link, so we're also going to choose that bottom radio button that I've selected here. And then we're going to click next once again. It's at this point we get to select what type of internet connection we have. We're going to choose the DSL cable option because that's what we're using currently. And then next you get to choose how Echolink is going to interact with your transceiver or repeater. And I guess in some cases we're going to choose ASCII for our purposes, but there is a rig blaster option here for some of those external options for controlling. Ours is ASCII and COM4, and you want to get into Windows and double check your system devices to see which COM port that is for the serial to USB adapter that you're using for the project. So now we need to fill out our chart here on the setup wizard, which is going to include your call sign. We already had one, so I just filled that in from the old Echolink system, as well as the rest of the information. Now, if you don't know what this password is, that can be tricky, and you're going to have to notify echolink.org to find that out or reset it, but I already had that from the old system, as well as a first name of whoever is setting up the system, usually whoever has registered the call sign. Here we have the location of the repeater, and then you'll also put in the email address of whoever was registered with the call sign you used up above. On to the next. So now we're going to go ahead and choose our region, and the way this is broken up is a couple of North Americas, 2 or 3 actually, and we're in the southeastern region, so we're going to choose the bottom right option. And we are finally given that firewall test. Now I showed you an example of a successful one earlier. When I ran this particular test, I was installing the software, but I wanted to simulate trying to install the software but not having touched the router and installing those port forwarding rules. So these are going to come back failures, and that's because I hadn't actually added the rules yet. It's really easy to download this software and think that's all you have to do, but in reality your laptop has to interact with the Echolink systems, and the Echolink systems have to come back and interact with your laptop. And because the router is doing a form of network address translation, it doesn't know that your laptop is on a private IP. So without the port forwarding rules on your router, it doesn't know where to pull that session back to your laptop. So make sure you visit your router if you get a failure scenario like in this particular simulated failure event. We're going to click finish. It's going to log in. We're going to see servers listed in the top pane in green, and on to the next element. Next, what we're going to do is move to the Tools menu. There are 3 menu options there that we're going to investigate: Setup Preferences and SIS Op Settings, and each of those has certain settings that you're going to need for your particular installation. You'll want to go through the manual so that you're selecting the right options again for your project. Here we're actually looking at My Station. These were the same values that we put in during the install and when Echolink launched for the very first time, and we're just double checking these items to make sure that we didn't fat finger anything: the call sign, the password, name, location, and email address there at the very end. Again, you want to make sure it's the email address that you registered your call sign. And here we're looking at the actual servers. Now again, these are multiple servers for fault tolerance run by echolink.org to make sure that you have connectivity. And next we're going to move to the proxy settings. We didn't need a proxy for this project because, number one, we have direct internet access through the router. But if you're behind a firewall maybe, or you don't have direct access to the internet, you may want to use that. And here we're looking at the timing. Didn't really have to change anything here, but the transmit time to 3 minutes 180 seconds. Next, we're moving to the audio, and we're just making sure we've selected those audio devices we checked on in Windows. The right microphone for the input device and the right speaker, if you will, for the output device. Didn't make any other changes on this screen. Didn't have to worry about duplex or transmit filters or anything. Fine tuning of the sound card was unnecessary as well, and recording mode was no recording. You can record your QSOs for playback later or for archiving purposes. The last piece is your performance tab, and this is going to allow you to get into buffering. And on modern systems there's very little need for buffering, although you'll want just a smidgen in case your network traffic gets a little slow, depending on the number of users that are currently in the conference. Now we're going to go back to the tools menu, and we're going to select preferences here. And this allows us to go in and make adjustments. The list options here allow us to update stations automatically in this top gray panel that you see in Echolink. Because this is going to be running in SIS Op mode, we don't need any of that, so we're going to skip it. It's unnecessary. In fact, I don't list anything. Then we moved over to connections, and this is where we actually use the top checkbox to allow conferencing. You'll want to turn that on in SIS Op mode so that more than one person can join the conference, and then possibly put in your location and so forth. Here we're just looking at push to talk settings. Those were unnecessary for this project. Here we can actually add text so that when people log in, they'll actually have a little bit of text describing the conference that they're in and the repeater that they're connecting to. You can also prevent certain countries from connecting to your Echolink by setting up certain countries, for instance, that would be disallowed from making connections based on their IP addresses. In this particular case, we decided that was unnecessary, but if I want to come back and do this later because of somebody abusing the Echolink system, I can do so. But again, on most of this, I left it at the defaults, which is not very much selected. And under the actual signals, everything's grayed out because I'm in SIS Op mode and was unnecessary. Next, we're going to move to the SIS Op settings, and this is again a place where you're going to want to spend some time. For our setup, because we're using an actual transceiver that is directly coupled to the laptop with the patch cables, we can actually utilize the Send CTS option here on COM4. You don't have to touch any of the baud rates or anything like that, or any of the delays. Some systems will use Vox, but we did not have to do that. So Send CTS works for us with this particular transceiver laptop combination. And then next we go to the Transceive tab, and we're going to utilize RTS once again on COM4 for sending signals between the laptop and the transceiver for audio going in and out. DTMF is unnecessary in our particular setup, and so we left it internal, but in certain situations you can utilize DTMF codes to turn on certain conferences and turn off. Next, we're looking at spoken voice here. This is actually the station identifier, and when somebody connects to your Echolink system, you're going to want your Echolink system to identify itself and the user that just connected. You can do this for when people connect, when they disconnect, when the radio is inactive. In most cases in the US, you only need to do it when users are connecting. Next, we're looking at the next tab here, where we get into announcements for the users themselves under options, and we announced all users this case, not the actual conference. So as people are in fact connecting, their call signs will actually be announced to the conference so that they're putting out their station ID as if they were doing it themselves. The rest of these checkboxes were unnecessary for our setup and based on the documentation. And at the very bottom, some different options here if, again, they're necessary for our particular situation with our particular transceiver connection, unnecessary. And lastly, we're over on the RF info. We didn't actually have to do anything here on the RF info, so I left it at the defaults, but the manual again goes into more detail. So what do we have left? Well, we have it running, and what I wanted to do now is show you the text that will come up when a user connects to our Echolink. This is just a straight up text file that we selected under the SIS Op settings, and you'll notice here we have our welcome message and what repeater you're connecting to locally. Plus we also put in some of our social media sites for those that are connecting on Echolink but might be unaware. And then of course our great president, Don Munsey of the Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio Association Club. Let's move to the next segment. Now what we're looking at here is going to profiles. When you put in a lot of time and effort to getting all of this to work, you can actually save all of these configuration settings as a profile. You would actually click new, give it a name, specify do you want to save the current settings, do you want to utilize a new profile with default settings. Here we wanted to save those settings and we just named it based on the working profile. So let's transition now to a couple of nets that we recorded the other day. We utilize a Sunday net and a Tuesday net, emergency net and a weather net weekly. And we would encourage you to come join us. We've recorded a couple of these sessions for examples of utilizing the current setup from KY4CKP's point of view. He will be running Echolink as a single user into our net. Remember, Echolink is wonderful for allowing those members who are traveling to still participate with your net activities. Let's have a listen.
CQ, CQ, CQ. This is KK4JPX for the LCARA WeatherNet. This net meets each Sunday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the LCARA 146.880 repeater with a tone of 77 Hertz, located in Somerset, Kentucky.
KY4CKP. All right, this is Chris, KY4CKP. Hopefully I'm coming through on Echolink. Looks like I'm transmitting now. Using the computer, haven't used a computer in a while because we're trying to record a little bit of this session, this net for the video. So we'll see how this goes. If not, we may try it again on Tuesday as well.
Now let's move over to the Tuesday net, and you'll hear my voice this time. And hang in there on this. We just wanted to show it working from different locations. KY4CKP is again still recording at this time, so he's hearing my voice on his end.
CQ, this is WM4LM for the LCARA Emergency Net. Meets each Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on the LCARA 146.880 repeater with a tone of 77 Hertz, located in Somerset, Kentucky. The objective of this net is to handle emergency-related issues and any other amateur radio information that anyone wishes to pass along. This is a directed net. Net control for this session is WM4LM. My name is Wanda, and I am in Ingalls, Kentucky. Any stations with emergency or priority traffic, please call now. Or any time during this net by calling emergency, or even a double break will do, and we will assist you any way that we can.
KY4BDP.
Next we have KY4BDP. Brian, do you have any comments?
Good evening, everybody. This is KY4BDP, sitting here in McLean, Virginia, just doing my normal training regimen here in this location. And as many of you had heard, I was scheduled for Dubai next week, but that has been canceled with everything that's going on tonight and this past week. So I'll be coming home Friday, and as Chris mentioned, looking forward to working on some projects and potentially getting out there and working on that comms trailer a little more. Possibly, I think it's going to be quite warm on Saturday, so be a good time to do some more sealing and maybe get that ceiling installed that we are finishing up, hiding some of that insulation and whatnot. Outside of that, that's about all from me, and I'll pass it back to Net Control. This is KY4 BDP, and back to Net.
So there you have it. 2 recorded nets to give you a little bit of an example of what it sounds like when you're on the receiving end and transmitting, and when you're on the receiving end listening to others, not only with regular radios, 2-meter radios in this case, but also other Echolink people, listening to them participate when they're not local, but they'd still like to stay in touch with other ham radio members. If you like these kinds of projects, please let us know. It takes a team of people to put a video like this together. Donate some of the resources, like the radio in this case. We want to thank AC4DM for the donation of the radio, and these types of projects are a lot of fun. This ultimately will be our primary system, and then we'll use the old Echolink system for a backup. We utilize the transceiver in this case because we do not have internet access at the remote site. For the Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio Association, 73 everybody.